20 years ago, Bain showed us the 80 by 8 delivery gap, famously known as the experience gap. My former colleagues at PwC just proved that we haven't closed it. In fact, 9 out of 10 execs think loyalty is growing, while fewer than half of the customers really agree. So really looking to kind of talking to you a lot about that. Welcome to Speaking from Experience. Here is what I believe. Human centricity can't just live with people who have experience in their title. It has to be owned by the people who own growth, are P&L leaders, operators, builders. The experienced folks need to be in the room, absolutely. But until the leaders driving the business treat human centricity as their job, not someone else's, sustainable growth stays as a talking point, never a reality. So this season, I'm sitting down with 10 leaders across industries for honest conversations. Some will honestly share my philosophy and some will challenge it. And that is the point. Because the only way to understand what it really takes to win with human centricity is to hear from people in the trenches figuring it out. I'm Sujay. Let's go in. Today's guest has spent nearly 25 years inside one of the most relationship-driven financial institutions in the country. And that is not an accident. Eric Feldstein leads retail and business banking at M&T Bank, an institution that has won 186 Coalition Greenwich Awards since 2011. Congratulations, Eric and team. Not for its technology, by the way, but for the quality of its client relationships. Eric came to banking through an unusual door. He started at Skadden, one of the world's top law firms, and then moved into strategy consulting at Diamond Management Consulting before joining M&T, where he has stayed for nearly a quarter century. That's outsider's analytical lens carried into a deeply human institution, shaping everything that he leads. He also co-founded M&T's first Hispanic employee group, work that is, in his own words, near and dear to everything he does. In an era where every bank is racing towards AI and digital first, Eric has held a different conviction that the human banker sitting with the client is not a relic of the past. It is the competitive advantage. Eric, welcome to Speaking from Experience.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Sujay.
Wonderful. So let's start with community banking. Eric, you came to M&T through Skadden and Diamond Management Consulting, not exactly the traditional path, I would imagine, into community banking. And yet you have stayed for nearly 25 years. For someone who arrived from the world of analytics and strategy, what happened? Has this become more than a job?
Yeah, no, thank you. And if you even took it before that, I spent my summers as a mailman for the U.S. Postal Service and was a political philosophy undergrad. So I would consider it to be a non-traditional journey that I've been on. But what I would say in Skadden and with Diamond Technology Partners, really what I had learned was, how to take advantage of structural differences that we had seen, whether that be, if you're working on a corporate finance transaction and M&A advisement, or you're there as a management consultant working and looking to find a competitive advantage that organization may have relative to their peers or venturing into a brand new ecosystem. That really, really helped me when I moved on 25 years or so ago to M&T Bank, where we're headquartered here in Buffalo, New York. And from the moment I got to the bank and, there's slogans at M&T that we talk about, making a difference in people's lives, or the community bank approach at M&T Bank, it really hit me loud and clear that our differentiator that we've had at M&T Bank, and one that I carry forward, through my heart and soul, is a human-centric approach. One in which we truly, truly believe that people are the center of everything. And if we show up as a leader in our community groups, it might be at a Boy Scout or Girl Scout troop. It might be that we're there at a local forum for business executives. It may be one that, we're the parents of a soccer team, etc. Us showing up as members of the communities we live and work in, right? Creating connections with our clients, creating that human centricity truly has been our differentiator. And I can tell you is one that others have either moved away from or have not had the ability to get closer to.
Absolutely. I would imagine, and I think community has the ring to it, right? So when you say community, let's actually talk to you about community. What does it really mean in practice for M&T Bank?
Community to me is, first of all, is number one, is that it's consistency, right? So you'll hear from a lot of organizations that may talk about, that they are an institution, not necessarily a bank, but an organization for our communities. And, they may splash some news headlines. They may provide some charitable contributions. They may bring in individuals into that region or geography. To me, what is really, really important for a community is that you're consistent. You're there during the good times, you're there during the bad times, and you are consistently out in front with a similar messaging. What I can tell you at M&T Bank, and my, conviction that I've always had in terms of everything that I say, is that community is all about from all aspects. We often talk about clients, community, and colleagues. And I had an old mentor of mine that used to talk about the three-legged stool between our clients, our community, and our colleagues. If one of those legs was a little bit crooked, the whole stool would fall over. And I often think about community that way. Community is our employees. Our employees are part of the ecosystem that they live and work in. They're volunteers. They have family members that are part of it. We obviously have our clients, consumers, business owners, wealth clients. And then we have the umbrella of the overall community. Every aspect of our community, whether it be not-for-profits, whether it be houses of worship, whether it be government or regulators, every aspect of community is really critically important. So I would just say for us, that's not done over weeks or months. That's done over decades of consistency in the local towns, villages, municipalities that we all live and work in.
That is so inspiring, Eric. You and your philosophies, as well as the bank, actually stands behind what community really is. Is there a specific moment, Eric, that you can bring to life where you feel like the bank really had to go out of its way to support the community before their own interest?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking that, Sujay. I mean, for me, on a personal level, each of us faced all sorts of challenges during the early aspects of the pandemic that affected us, not just as a country, but, globally overall. And what I would say is during those moments, I had the privilege of being the head of the small business division at M&T Bank. We have over 300,000 clients there. And during those early days, the shock, the frightenedness of the individuals, the business owners, their employees, everyone was in a state of pure shock and disbelief as to what's next for me. What we had seen, the news headlines were that we might be going into a deep recession, that millions of employees might, lose their jobs. And during those darkest moments when we had our clients coming to us, asking for advice and guidance, the federal government in consultation with the industry come up with what was referred to as the Paycheck Protection Program. And really, in essence, what it was that the financial services industry, through the pass-through of the federal government, provide loans that, if established in a certain construct, could be forgiven at the end of the forgiveness period. So from an M&T Bank side, we literally had 1 week to figure out some ambiguous rules that had first been recommended. Number two, design a system in place whereby thousands of business owners could work through a digital platform for us. And then number three, do this all when 100% of our employees were fully remote. Actually, there were two of us at headquarters during this whole journey. What I would say is, for me, during that week, we had 1 week to create a digital front-end interface. We had 1 week to create an operations system. And we had 1 week to rally what ended up being 2 of us to 2,000 of us getting together in support of our clients. You fast forward about 6 months in, we supported $9.9 billion of PPP loans, supporting 850,000 employees and over 60,000 companies. The emotion that took place during that week before us getting online was unspeakable. The crying and tears that we had of business owners in terms of their fear of losing their jobs, multi-generational businesses, their employees, right, having to give up everything, moving into a system where we were able to, in the course of a week, provide them funding, that they had hope, they saw a future, not just for themselves, but for their employees and for the community. I can tell you the hundreds and hundreds of stories that we heard from our business owners. Just thank you. Thank you for making a difference in our lives. And what I would tell you is, what really got us through this, many of us had not slept for over 2 weeks, was we told stories. We told stories about our customers, right? Wow. That 3 a.m. phone call that customer received their SBA notification that they were getting funding, right? The customer, in Altoona, Pennsylvania, that was able to tell their employees that there is a future for you. We are not going to have to lay you off. That's what really, really got us going. And we saw ourselves, as such as economic first responders, really being there to support not just the bank, to support our clients, but to support the future of this country and keeping a thriving economy. To me, it's something that, even to this day, I think about almost every day as we think about customer centricity, being there during the moments that matter to our clients. I couldn't think of a more special moment that really brought this to light.
I can only imagine how afraid people must have been, those business owners must have been. I'm not even talking about like being worried, like they must have been literally afraid. And kudos to you and your team that actually navigated a lot of that. I'm just curious, how were you able to rally the troop, get the colleagues? Because you're not talking about some financial sacrifices, you're talking about potentially health sacrifices that people may have been making at that time to just make sure that their community thrives, continue thriving. What worked, in your opinion?
Yeah, I would just say, listen, from a leadership side, just, taking ourselves back. Yes, we had many colleagues that, had family members that had health challenges. I did with my wife's family down in South America. And so not only did we have to work fully remote, all 2,000 of us, and rallying it together, but we had personal issues and emergencies that were taking place amongst most of the 2,000 colleagues. So from a leadership side, for myself, it was leading with empathy, right? It was storytelling along the way. Decisions needed to be made in an instant, right? We did not have a week, 2 weeks to study whether this design worked or whether this front-end interface worked. And what we did was we pushed all the decisions lower in the organization to those closest to the work. And by doing so, we were able to iterate, we were able to be extremely agile throughout it. So the design that we rolled out at the front of the PPP looked very different than the design 2 weeks from then. And it was really, really important. Individuals, while they were facing their own personal crises, felt very empowered to be in control and ownership of that. And my role really as a leader was to inspire, make sure that roadblocks were removed, and make sure that we were focusing on the mission ahead. The decisions, though, once again, they were all being made by those less senior in the organizations, those closest to the work, whether it be a risk-based decision, whether it be a technology or a digital decision, whether it be how to set up an operational factory that met our clients' needs. It was all done by those closest to the work and the problem statements.
Every bank is trying to go digital first and think about how do they remove friction, how do they automate, how do they have fewer people in the process. Looks like you have led the bank much to a different path around like thinking about human bankers. How do you actually think about being present for your clients? Do you see this as like one or the other, or do you feel that this is all together?
Yeah, one of the things that, we have and I have as a belief as a bank, it's not an and, it's not an or, it's an and. Just to give you example of this, if you look at the physical branches that exist at M&T and the industry overall, what you see is, at least on a personal level, consumers are transacting a bit less than they used to be 10, 15 years ago in terms of, whether they be cash transactions, checking transactions, wire transfers, et cetera. But what we have found more than ever, and this breaks across all age groups, this is not just, for Gen Xers, et cetera, it's actually for Gen Zs, et cetera, that there is a need more than ever for advice and guidance. So if you think about the physical branch or think about, how we are structured our organization, we have really transitioned the physical, the branch, in from one that you could still engage in transactions and servicing, and we will welcome you with a big smile as you set foot into the branch if you have transactional needs. But we've also structured our branches to be one to really provide advice and guidance, right? If you're going through life changes, maybe you're buying your first home, maybe you have some small wealth creation that you'd like to get advice and guidance on. Maybe you're just looking at diversifying, your overall, financial situation and are looking for just overall advice and guidance. What we've done at M&T Bank is really provided digital tools that allow you to self-service on your terms, not on our terms, but at the same time, actually have humans there to provide you advice and guidance. I think it's really, really important time and time again, whether it be surveys from M&T or elsewhere, we have across all age groups, individuals, they are looking for a human body, someone that they can either look at the eye, talk to via video or via phone, and truly get that level of advice and guidance that a full digital end-to-end journey just isn't going to be able to provide them.
This is fascinating, Eric. And I wonder, since you have both the retail and business banking world, do you see a difference in how clients' expectations are evolving during this time?
Yeah. So here's what I would just say. Consumers are business owners and business owners are consumers. And, often those that consume the services of a financial institution like M&T Bank are also consuming lots of other, aspects, whether it be the way they engage in a car riding service to how they're engaging in watching movies or videos these days versus 5 or 10 years ago. So one of the things that I always and my team always, takes into consideration is not just how consumers think about banking, but how they think about how they are serviced or the relationships that they have across all ecosystems that they are in. So what I would say is from a customer side, whether it's a business owner or a retail customer, yes, they are looking to do things on their terms. Said another way is, if there are aspects that they can do digitally, we provide them that. And that's a journey that we'll continue to always look at. Where are there places that our customers want to be met on their terms, not on our terms? At the same time, we have continued to very significantly ramp up our human-centric aspects of this, right? Many of our customers feel much more comfortable than they did pre-pandemic, for example, in engaging in web dialogue versus person-to-person. It allows a much quicker experience for some of our customers, and they're able to move on to either the consumer or their small business activities. So what I would just say overall, absolutely, our customers' preferences continue to evolve. It's really critical that we continue to meet them on their terms versus our terms and continue to uplift, I would say, or enhance our human centricity in every part of that aspect, that we can either interrupt it, a digital aspect to create human centricity, or meet them where they need to be met.
Considering all of this, and even going back to your example of PPP, it looks like trust is a big factor that stays, and that's what governs to a big extent where the bank actually invests its efforts and energies. The one thing that may be changing, Eric, and interested in hearing your perspective, is people will have more and more access to information. People will have more and more access to, let's even say, advice in many which way. There could be a lot of confidence that a lot of these people may have with that level of information, but that can also create a lot of skepticism, I would imagine, in what to expect from the financial institution in some ways, whether it's advice or it's anything else, because they feel like they know it better because AI is guiding them in certain situations. This is a little bit of my hypothesis, but interested in hearing your perspective, Eric. Do you see some of that influencing the future of advice for you all tomorrow?
Listen, I would say, advice and guidance will always be leveraged as it has in the past and will accelerate in the future by tools that either customers can use on their terms or that we'll be able to enable and support our customers with. What I would tell you is that, so let me give you what's happening in real time. In real time, there used to be, if a relationship manager in the industry was going out to meet a prospective customer, right? They would do their Google search, they would go to vendors, they would learn a little bit about their industry, et cetera, right? The world on AI, I would say, democratizes a lot of that at your fingertips. You can learn a lot about a consumer or a business owner, right? Their industry, what questions you may want to ask them, et cetera. So a lot of that has been democratized, I would say, through the use of AI, and we see that it continuing to accelerate in the future. What hasn't, though, and I truly believe will stay true, irrespective of the AI journey that we're on, is this human connection. There is this, this belief, and you can go into a whole bunch of other industries where, they were written off for dead 10, 15 years ago, but because of that human connection, wanting to be able to touch something or wanting to be able to consume something amongst others, that feeling of connecting to somebody, I think, is going to be even more relevant than ever as we go into the next 10 to 20 years. So to me, it is a combination of the both. We will absolutely see an industry that there will be more advanced tools, more ability for customers to self-serve, to be really inquisitive on their self-service, yet at the same time, having that human there that is going to be able to provide tools and connection, right, in their local communities, their local towns and villages that no chatbot would be able to do.
That's so true. In fact, I'd say like in a lot of this, the underpinning is really the culture and how you have evolved the organization over a period of time, regardless of various different kinds of revolutions that have come along, whether it was the digital revolution, AI revolution, and whatnot. I guess 186 Greenwich Awards since 2011. That's like a testament to everything that you folks have done. I'm pretty sure it's not a fluke or a marketing campaign. It's really the culture that is holding up at scale across so many branches, I guess about 900 or so, the last I counted, and thousands of bankers you talked about. So help me understand a little bit of like what is actually producing such a level of consistency or the level of ethos and how the bank operates and continues to be out there with the clients at all times. What is the underpinning here?
For me, it's really personal. I have 7,000 members of the M&T Bank family that, I play oversight to, whether it be in the branch network or on our business banking side. And every single one of them, has a story. Every single one of them, I truly believe, if you were to talk to them, believes in the mission statement of M&T Bank, right? And in its highest level is to make a difference in our communities and in our customers' lives. So if you start there, and it sounds really, really simple, but that means hiring individuals that believe in that culture, hiring individuals that believe in relationships, not transactions, right? Hiring individuals that truly want to make a difference in our community's lives. And one of those examples at M&T Bank is we offer actually 40 hours of paid volunteer time a year to all 22,000 employees at M&T Bank, right? So it's not just about, hey, go volunteer. We're actually going to continue to pay you and go to the charitable community organizations of your choice that you feel is going to make a difference to uplift, the communities that you live in and work in. So I say all that to say, if you fast forward to where we've been blessed to win a significant number of Greenwich and other small business and consumer awards, it's all about the start point of what is our purpose, and then behavioral reinforcing that to our employees, giving the positive reinforcement. And then, there may be folks that don't fit into those ecosystem, and that's totally fine. But all that gets to the point of, when you build a system and you build a culture like that, naturally, you're going to be having an organization that is very human-centric in design and one that our customers feel comfortable with. They have a sense of trust. They have a sense of belonging with that organization. And as such, we were fortunate to win a significant number of Greenwich Awards. So I would just say overall, it starts with our purpose. It starts with our culture. You continue with the behavioral reinforcement, and at the end, you start seeing the results of all those fruits of your labor.
It's great to hear how you have truly in the bank integrated this focus on human centricity across the entire organization. I've chatted with you in the past in many different ways, and that's literally the reason why I run this podcast with people like yourself, is because you don't have experience in your title, but yet you run the organization with that lens of human centricity. How and what advice would you have for other P&L leaders who are in similar positions as you, or probably are even more emerging leaders in other institutions, whether it's in banking, it's across in other financial institutions, or even beyond financial institutions? You do have like a lot of people who, what you call like are owners or definers of culture, and some who are definers of experience and digital initiatives, where human centricity is more intuitive. But then folks like yourselves who have numbers in front of you, and you have to hit those numbers to make sure that the organization continues to kind of grow. How do you use human centricity as a strategic advantage in driving some of that?
One of this that is, I come back, and I think we're all wired, often from our childhood. And, my mother is a retired special ed teacher from the inner city in upstate New York. And the only question that she asked me at the end of the week, when we often talk on Fridays, is, give me an example of a difference you made in somebody's lives, right? So when I think back about my Friday afternoon conversations with my mother, It's not about, what P&L did I drive? It's not about, the expense savings or the efficiency, et cetera. It's, did I make a difference in a business owner or a consumer's lives? And it's a conversation that I love to have with my mother often every Friday evening, because I take it back to, and because I think what's really, really important, for colleagues on the phone, in order for me to be able to do that, there's a few things that I do. Number one, where are your listening posts, right? For me, if your listening posts are those that are other senior leaders in the organization, you're not going to get the true understanding of what's going on. So for me, from a listening post, I will often, walk into a branch, maybe not even present myself, or talk to a consumer that has no idea as to my title, et cetera, and just engage in conversation. So I would just say for colleagues on the line from the industry or outside the financial services industry, whatever industry you're in, is the closest you can get to what's actually taking place, boots on the ground, the more you're going to learn and the better decisioning and the influence that you and your team are going to be able to make. I spend a lot of time boots on the ground, not presenting, but just sitting there in listening mode. And it's amazing, those that are closest to the customer are those that have all the answers. It's not those that are most senior in title. It's those that are closest to the customer. So for me, like that human centricity, as we think about those closest to the customer, that's number one, I think is most important. Number two is, asking yourself a question when you are in a meeting, in a forum with other leaders, and especially those that may be reporting to you. Are you doing the talking, or are you asking questions and the majority of doing listening, right? Is there a devil's advocate in the room? For me, if I've got a bunch of nodding heads, if I make a statement, I'm in trouble. And how do you establish, an environment from a leadership side that you create a sense of psychological safety, a sense of belonging for individuals in the room? I can tell you that those types of meetings that I've had, it's often those with the most junior formal title in the room that have the best ideas. And without creating that level of safety, you're not going to get the level of both candor, but the best ideas in terms of us moving forward. So I would say those are two, major items, as I think about, advice and guidance for those that are in the industry. Once again, I take it back to my mother, and it helps just reframe for me, what is my purpose? And it allows me to then shape what each day looks like, whether it be with colleagues in a corporate environment or with our customers throughout the M&T Bank footprint.
Yeah, I can totally relate how rooting it back to purpose and the impact that you're making. What a great upbringing from that standpoint. That we're not talking about how much money did you make or how much how much of a business did you grow, but the impact that you created in the community, which makes me even think a little bit of that, considering what M&T stands for and the kind of clientele that you have, there must be people from all kinds of backgrounds across the board. In fact, I know, Eric, you co-founded the Hispanic business group, right? As well, the Hispanic employee group within M&T as well. Tell us a little bit about that and your connection and your inner passion to actually developing that.
No, I appreciate that. And maybe just to give, my own personal journey, when my wife and I had met, she's originally from Latin America, was looking to become a small business owner. But what I would say is, I saw her, entering the United States, and then many years later, us getting married, and both the joy and the struggles of a small business owner that may not have the perfect language, that may not have all the knowledge in terms of how businesses run in the United States, whether they be on a regulatory side, whether it be consumer interests, et cetera. And so, for me early on was really just watching, her as a small business owner, and, blessed, 5 years later, a successful filmmaker, but one that has really gone through, I would say, lots of challenges of what an immigrant, consumer or small business owner goes through in dealing with either a financial institution or in the business environment. So it's been one that's been very, very close, to my heart, as I think about, what are the different tools, who are the people at the bank that might be able to, best support all of our consumers, all of our business owners, irrespective of the background, the culture that they've come through. So very, very personal to me and close to my heart. What we saw, and I spent about 6 years in our Washington, D.C. market, which is one of the most really multicultural ecosystems in the United States, was there was this desire for a sense of inclusion and belonging, not just from our colleagues, but also for our customers. And we casually, brought together members of our community, those that had an interest in the Latino culture. After a while, we said, hey, why don't we create a little bit of structure to this? And a long story short, we created something and called it HOLA as an employee group, and now have 6 chapters throughout the M&T footprint. We just had an amazing new chapter in the state of Connecticut that was just opened on Cinco de Mayo, and couldn't be more excited. What I've seen in terms of investing, right, not just in the employee groups, but really investing in getting to know our clients more, on a more personal level, and how they're wired and how we might be able to engage them in the best way, is that it's so fulfilling for our clients, for our employees. And once again, as we think about us being a customer-centric organization that's looking to make a difference in our community's lives, I couldn't think of anything more important.
Yeah. In fact, if not to tie it back to DEI and the efforts along those lines, we're trying to even understand the impact of inclusive leadership in bringing in the best out of the people, which is your colleagues, to the best in your clientele, which is your customers. I think it's incredible to see how much myself, an immigrant into this country, can actually relate to it, and thankful to leaders like yourself who create that safe environment a lot of times for people to be able to express and talk and be able to really contribute to the ideas which ultimately help in the organization's growing, right? So let's go deeper and maybe even more personal, Eric. I know you love to hike. Tell us a little bit about that, and when did you start that, and how and where you're headed? What's your next hike?
Sure. So, I am, and I think many of us maybe on the line are accidental hikers. I was a runner that I had a few too many doctor's visits that at a certain point, my doctor said, you could either have surgery here or find another passion in life. And I was fortunate about a decade ago to finally, I think, heed the advice of the 4th or 5th doctor to put away my running shoes and try something different in life. And what I would tell you is that for me, hiking has been one of the most liberating experiences for me on a personal level in my life. I hike every weekend. It's often me, some raccoons, maybe a coyote or a beaver hanging around. A few weeks ago was a skunk that fortunately didn't want to become friends with me, so it stayed at distance. But what I find from hiking, is I'm, going hiking, somewhere, is that it provides this separation from the hustle and bustle, or I often talk about the hamster on a wheel in terms of, of corporate America life. And it allows me to spend a little bit of time reflecting. And often when I'm reflecting, I'm often reflecting about some human connections that I made, during my hike, areas that I just want to be able to decompress and release from. And it's been just an amazing, amazing journey for me, through hiking in terms of creating that, disconnect from the day-to-day into, I would just say, once again, a very liberating environment. I've been able to then bring my family into this and, experience national parks like I never have before, and to be able to see how great of a nation this is in terms of the breadth of the topography that exists in this country. It blows me away every time I go to a new national park. It's like I'm in a new planet, and it's just the fresh air, the animals, the wildlife, the ability to separate from your day-to-day activity. It's been one that's been just extraordinary to me. And for those on the line, I strongly, strongly recommend. You don't need hiking poles. You don't need anything fancy. Just throw on one of your old backpacks. Get yourself a pair of comfortable shoes and head out to the woods. It's a pretty joyful experience.
Do you have recommendations, Eric, on what's like your where should people go?
So for me, what's really close to my heart, and I think for many hikers, is Yosemite National Park. It's one that, the famous Half Dome, for those that have had an opportunity to climb it, is just extraordinary. I was able to take my son on a hike there when he was 14 years old. He had to wait for his dad a few times, which in itself was a little bit of a humbling experience because I was always dragging the kids along, and it was my first hike there. But what I would just say is, whether it be Yosemite, whether it be Joshua Tree or Yellowstone or a whole variety of other parks that I've been blessed to visit, it's really forcing yourselves to go to a park, don't have much of a routine or schedule to that park, get there and just explore. Like, it's an opportunity to move away from structure and just be there and experience it. So for me, that's been it. We often fly and we'll go somewhere or drive and go somewhere and just stay in the moment and not have a full structure of on day 1, day 2, day 3, this is what we need to do. It's, hey, I enjoyed going left. Let's stay to the left versus what I thought we were going to do, which was going right. So,
Yeah, this is great, Eric. And knowing your connections back to the Latin America as well, like any recommendations there?
listen, I would I may have tomatoes thrown at me at home if I didn't say that Brazil is the place to go. Listen, I remind myself, for one that spends a lot of time in Brazil. Brazil, if you flipped it around, is the size of the continental U.S. minus Texas. It's an enormous country with so much vibrancy. And what I can tell you is that all my visits that I've been to Brazil, the culture is one of pure happiness. And there's individuals with all sorts of socioeconomic backgrounds, but irrespective of that, I always appreciate every time I go there, the happiness, the joy, the music, the dancing, the celebration that takes place every time I'm in Brazil. My view is I've always loved to, while I love the big cities, going out to many of the either interior or coastal towns. I think that's where you're going to really learn a lot about Brazilian culture. It's one that, once again, is just, it's an amazing, amazing experience. The food, I'm a big passion fruit individual. So the passion fruit mousse, or what's the cheese bread, which is called pão de queijo. And then obviously for those that have been to the all-you-can-eat Brazilian restaurants, that the rodízio or the experiences you have there, you just make sure you have a little bit of nap time after you go to one of those in Brazil. They really take the U.S. All-you-can-eat steak restaurants to the next level, and it's a pretty overwhelming experience.
That's great. Like, you're making me drool now. I love the Latin American culture, the people, the food. So yeah, really, this is like only 9 a.m. here, and I feel like I'm hungry like anything. Anyway,
and be careful as well. When you go there as well, not be careful, but the experience is amazing to me is when the Brazilian national soccer team is playing, or there's a Brazilian game playing. In the United States, if there's a big soccer team or a big football team or a big hockey team playing, there's, a lot of people. It's a little quieter. When I say the streets are empty in a city like São Paulo, which in the metropolitan area is 19 million people, they are empty. It's extraordinary. Everyone is heading to the bars, to the restaurants, to the clubs, et cetera, to watch it. It's like unlike anything I've seen before. The passion that Brazilians have towards football, Brazilian, soccer is extraordinary. So I hope for those that do experience Brazil, you do have that experience of being able to see Brazil on a soccer day. It's unlike anything I've seen before.
we should have recorded this on that day, but I guess we would have not found you or me on the podcast if that was the day. But anyway, Eric, it was so nice chatting with you all the way from hearing a little bit about your passion for human centricity and the moments and the stories where M&T made your customers special, but also saving what I would call like their lives and their livelihoods in many which ways, showing a little bit about like how you and the other leaders at M&T have really driven a culture of inclusivity that has brought the best into driving human centricity as a strategic advantage for the organization. Wishing only all the best to you and the leadership team and the entire M&T family for continuing to kind of grow and keep the communities thriving to the best that they can. And Eric, thank you. Thank you for being on Speaking from Experience. What you have built at M&T is a genuinely rare thing, a model that says that human relationship is the strategy, not the sentiment. And not me, but 186 Greenwich Awards that you all have won is worth an evidence to back all of that up. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you so much, Sujay.
If you're a leader trying to figure out how to build something that actually earns trust, not just claims it. This is a conversation to replay. If this resonated, subscribe wherever you listen and share it with someone who is navigating the same question in their own institutions. We have a lot of more conversations coming up this season with leaders across industries who are rethinking what it means to put people at the center of growth. I'm Sujay. Thanks for listening.